Hello, everybody. It's Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI, along with my co-beat writer, the one and only, the great Ezekiel Trezevant. Good to have Zeke here. I am your host for the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you. And now we're going to really dig in. It's here. Our wandering in the off-season desert is over. Football is back. Veterans have reported. Zeke, we're not really going to get into on this podcast, anything because it was literally today's press conference day. But we're going to get into expectations. And I want to start right at the front. As you know, I have covered a lot of training camps and I've covered a lot of off season. That just means I'm old. You've covered several. I've covered a lot. I have never seen OTAs that had the energy that these did, that went up a notch in minicamp. I fully expected. Everybody I've talked to thinks that's going to be participating in it, thinks it's going to be off the charts. I am impressed with just the energy level, because usually at OTAs it's kind of like, the rookies are excited, free agents are excited, but guys are like, yeah. It has just gone like this. How are you impressed by it, or do you think I'm missing something?
No. So I think, everybody we can all agree the energy has been there. What I have, and you kind of alluded to it here a second ago, Hondo, what I've been looking for and kind of been paying attention to is how long can they sustain that energy, right? Energy is cool when you have a new head coach and a lot of new pieces, but when it's 120 degrees outside every day for weeks and now you're out there, how long can you sustain that? So that's been one thing I've been paying attention to, and it's been consistent, right? If anything, is going up. So that'll be another thing that we get to watch in training camp that I'm excited to watch, is see how that energy translates now onto the field when the pads come on.
This is interesting to me, and I want to get your perception. I did not know Pete Carroll before he got this job, knew of him, obviously, have people that he's close to that I know, et cetera, know lots of people that have coached with him, for him, and players that have played for him. And everybody talked about how genuine, how sincere, how it's real. And I'm going to share this with you. I've told this story in the podcast, but I had a Raider player tell me that he's the most genuine guy he's ever met. Literally had a conversation with him, and like 4 weeks later sees him. He recalls the conversation and he asks him about a family member. And they just said to me, they've all raved. You can't fake that. You can fake it with one or two people. You can't fake it with a bunch. I was already impressed with Pete Carroll with what I knew, but what I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears has impressed me even more. This certain Hall of Fame coach, and I've had private conversations with him and his wife, and I've had private interaction. He's been nothing but a gentleman, warm, kind. I'm not surprised, but at this point in his career, he doesn't have to be that guy, and he still is that guy. Everything I've heard about him has been true. I'm extremely impressed. I'd love your thoughts.
Yes, sir. Very down to earth, right? For it to be Pete Carroll, and I'll be honest with you, the first couple of times he came in front of the media, I was sitting there with a dumb smile on my face because it's Pete Carroll, right? And to your point, you don't really realize that it's Pete Carroll because he's not coming across like that, right? He's very down to earth, very self-aware as well. One thing that I realized, just kind of going back through Pete's words, is go back and read and listen to Pete talk about his failures. And I think that's what really stuck out to me about how he's been fired multiple times and he can readily recall what he did wrong, and it sticks out in his mind. And a lot of people get to a certain point in their career and they forget that they failed, especially when they win the Super Bowl and they've won championships. That hasn't happened with Pete, right? Those failures are still there. He remembers that and it drives him. And to me, it shows that he's, he knows what he's good at. He knows what he's not good at. And he knows where he has grown. So I'm excited to see him kind of put that into the team and see where they go this season.
For you, and this is an important one, but for you personally, I think this team is a 9-8 team. I reserve the right to change that opinion as camp goes on, injuries, whatever. I'd like your thoughts. Where do you think the Raiders end up the regular season?
I had about the same thing, right? About obviously you can't hit 500 on the dot, right? But somewhere in that area, right? And I think that's fair, right? None of us are saying these guys are going to go to the Super Bowl, but I do think it's fair to expect a couple of games worth of improvement, right? Now, to your point, right? And as we saw last season, one or two of the wrong injuries and everything kind of goes out the window, right? But in terms of where they
Or one or two of the wrong players becoming divas.
Ex- very much so, right? You're one, and that's for any team, right? That's not a Raider specific thing, right? One or
No.
two things go wrong, and all expectations are out the window. But I think with the things they've done this season, it is fair to expect them to get better. But not just that. Think about how unlucky they were last season. Like, think about there are a couple games that could have gone their way had the ball just bounced a little bit differently, right? Or had they maybe made a play or two more, right? So I think it's fair to expect them to make one or two more plays that should lead to another win or two on top of the improvements that they've already made that should lead to another two or three additional wins on top of last season. Better injury luck this season. There's no reason to expect anything but good things this year.
Zeke, I want to go in a little bit of a different slant with you on this next question. Under Josh McDaniels, they were a practice fast team, and then they would correct it watching the film and everything in the classroom after practice. Last year, I remember me and you and one of our colleagues, and I'm not going to name him because I dislike him. In fact, you and I both very much like him. I don't know if he would want this opinion public, but one of our colleagues, the three of us were standing there, writes for a competitor, but great guy. And we were talking about how much wasted time we saw last year with AP. They would go over, and I'm all for watching the big screen during a water break, but there just seemed to be a lot of wasted time in practice. They wanted to correct problems right then. Okay, great. With Pete and his staff, first of all, I think this is tremendous staff. And they're correcting problems now, but they're doing it very fast and then spending a lot of time in the classroom. In fact, players have told me they're not spending anywhere close to the amount of time they spent with Josh McDaniels in the classroom. And it's almost about the same or a little bit shorter than even AP. And they're loving it. In fact, one of the players told me this week, he said, the thing I love so far about Pete is he is so respectful of our time. So you want to listen. He tells us, stay engaged. I don't have to keep you here forever. I know you're hearing the same things from players because we talk to players away from the facility. I think this is really unique how he's doing it. It's not Josh. It's not AP. It's kind of just his own style. I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, kind of a mix of both, right? But I will say efficiency is the word, right? And even in the media, we feel it, right? Just watching the practice, right? Just watching them go from here to here to here. Our heads are kind of spinning at times and trying to figure out who's going where and what's what. But I think you hit it right on the head, right? These guys, they want all the time that they can get, and you got to think these guys, you got to keep their attention, right? You got to keep players' attention. And I think the way Pete does it also puts the responsibility on the players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's correct this now. These are grown men, right? These are professional athletes. Hey, let's correct this now in the physical aspect. Let's hone in on that. And then, like you said, you don't have to spend as much time in the classroom. And I think a lot of those guys, just athletes in general, would prefer to do their learning on the field, right? That's where you're going to make the most progress. And then mentally, you work on it outside of things. But I think the way Pete is doing it, and to your point, right? The fact that this is so different from Josh McDaniels and this is so different from AP, I think that adds to keeping their, the players' attention span. So all good things there. The way Pete has is done, you have to pay attention, right? And staying engaged only helps you learn. It only helps you get better as a player. So I like the way Pete is doing this.
All right. You and I, because of our role as beat writers, talk to players away from the facility, whether we see them out at a place or we're talking to them on the phone or whatever, texting, whatever. I'm going to give you my observation. We have not discussed this. I want to see if your observation is the same.
Okay.
When Josh McDaniels got here, there was great amount of faith in his resume. And by this point, they had all gotten to know him a little bit and they liked him. So I thought that was fair. With AP, they had come off of, they were jacked up after 23. But at this point in 24, they were still fired up, but they were a little nervous.
Yes.
We talked about some things that had happened internally. They were still jacked up. They were nervous. I'm telling you right now, every guy I talk to is like floating. And the thing that I love is not one of them is talking about we're going to get 10 wins, we're going to get 12 wins, whatever. It's we're going to compete for day one, and that starts the first day of training camp. I mean, and it's almost like it's scripted, but because you and I know these guys on a personal, private level, we get the skinny when we're off the record, and it's the same as on. They're jacked up for training camp. Would love your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with you, and and excuse my excitement, but I think a lot of the reason the guys are jacked up is it's bigger than Pete Carroll, right? I think that's where the roster composition comes into play because I think the opposite happened at times last year where they knew they did not have the roster to compete, and then it just kind of messed with their psyche, i.e., the Denver game on the road, right? Once that pick six happened, they were like, we don't have the people to compete. AP said the same thing right before he left at the end. He's like, we don't have the people. I think this year they know, hey, like you said, we may or may not win 10 games or 11 games, but we have the roster to compete. And I think the fact that it's starting from the top down, the changes started with the general manager, with the roster composition, with Pete Carroll, you can't help but be excited, right? It's not just, oh, we changed the head coach, but we're returning pretty much all the same players. It's no, we changed the GM, we changed the head coach, we revamped. They literally addressed every position group on the offensive side of the ball. They made at least one change on every position group. That's rare. That's rare. Wide receiver, running back, quarterback, offensive line, you name it. They made a change to a roster position. How can you not be excited about that, right? So I think the players feel that and it translates.
I agree 100%. All right, I want to get into a different one. I've actually talked about this in the podcast a couple of times, but I've not with you. John Spytek did something this offseason that I think flows under the radar. And I want to take it off. I want to take it from outside the radar and put it squarely in the sights of Raider Nation. Darnay Holmes, Jermaine Pratt, Eric Stokes, Devin White, Raheem Mostert. He's going and getting guys who've proven in this league they can play at a high level, who had some injury issues or whatever, who are, they believe, are healthy. He's not sold the farm to get any of them. He's not risked the Raiders' future. But he's brought in 6 guys or so who've already proven in this league they can do it with very manageable deals that if they're right and these guys are back, woo, the Raiders got a chance to get to double digits. But if they don't, he didn't sell the farm because there wasn't free agents that were long-term viable answers on a team that's not going to make a Super Bowl anyways. To me, he's got a chance. If these guys all hit and the Raiders hit the playoff, this guy better be GM of the year. But what he's done by not risking the future and not giving up draft picks and not wasting for guys that aren't going to be here in 4 or 5 years, to me, it's brilliant. I'd love your thoughts on the job Spytek did. I think it is way underrated.
Very underrated, and we live in Las Vegas, right? He has just bet in a sense, right? In a very general sense, right? The fact that he did not, put everything into this free agent class, like you said, let's say it doesn't work out, right? Because this is the NFL. Few things go exactly how you plan it to go, right? Let's say it does not work out. Are you really in that much worse of a spot than where you were last season, right? And then, like you said, you still have all that money to play with, right? Now, on the front side, on the good side, like you said, if everything or most of the things work out in combination with the things that you pretty much can bank on from last year about your players that are returning, come on, what is there not to like about these guys? Spytek has done a very good and thorough job. And what I was really impressed about is that it seemed like, based off the moves that he made, that he was very in tune with where the team was, and obviously he knows where he wants to take the team, right? But for a guy that just came in right off the top, it was like you would have thought he had been there for years, or at least more than just showed up, right? So I think John has done a great job. I will nerd out over the job John Spytek has done on a lot of different fronts. Please don't get me started. But like you said, the money, right? Because I think when you entered this offseason, a lot of people saw, hey, Raiders have 90 million free. They have 100 million, whatever that number was. Let's go spend it, right? We're human. We're Americans, right? We like to spend money when we have it, right? John said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's be patient, right? Because he understands this is a process. Between the money that he refused to overpay some guys that left, the decisions that he made in terms of players that he brought in, I like it. And like you said, right? he's taking a chance on a lot of guys. Guess what? Just as much as the Raiders want to prove themselves as a team, as an organization, these guys that he brought in want to prove themselves too, because a lot of these guys have been discarded or overlooked. And now, guess what? You put 4, 5, 6 of those guys on the same team, same mission. Let's go.
And if Malcolm Koonce performs where you and I both think he's going to,
Yes.
I mean, I talked about him throughout camp, OTA camp. I mean, he just looked good, man, and he was more vocal than I've ever heard him. It was chomping at the bit, Malcolm.
Locked in.
He gonna get paid.
Locked
He
in.
gonna get paid a lot of money.
Locked in. And you got to think about just how unique of an opportunity he has, right? Because last year was a contract season for him, right? He messes up his the knee, I believe, and most players would have been in a little bit different of a situation this offseason coming off an injury like that in your like it just wouldn't have worked out the way it did for Malcolm. So happy that he gets another chance. We all expect him to take that next step. And I can't say this enough, Hondo. He is a huge part of the defense's psyche. He's a huge part of their morale. I've said it before, but when AP had to come to the stand and announce that Malcolm was out last year, right before the Chargers game week 1, I mean, the wind was let out of the sails in the media room. I could only imagine what it felt like in the locker room. So the guys love Malcolm. Everybody's ready to see him get back.
So you may, I know you'll remember this, but we've not told the fans this story. That morning, actually, I think it was the day before AP announced it, I get a text from a player. And all I'm going to say is it was 4 or 5 Fs, followed by a lot of other letters that ended with a lot of Ks. And you may remember, I called you.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know what happened. I got an idea. But whatever it is, today, this is not going to be good. And I told you what player sent it to me. So we were like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it just totally was, it was literally,
It was a deflator.
for lack of a better word, a buzzkill.
Huge. And then for it to happen, I mean, literally days, I mean, no exaggeration, maybe 3 days before the first game, 4 days at the most. I think it was the Thursday before the Sunday game, right? Or the Friday, one of the two. And it was crazy because we had just saw Malcolm on the practice field, right? So when we got the news, it was almost like, when did it happen? But at the same time, you're right. Like it was like, when did that happen? So, but yeah, good to have Malcolm back. Everybody's excited, and hopefully he's taking the next step. Hopefully this year will be another step for him to take.
I agree with you. All right, I want to go. You and I serve the same fans as beat writers for the Raiders. So I'm sure your comments look like mine, but I get hundreds of emails. People, I don't know who, but evidently somebody is reporting that there's a QB controversy. And I keep addressing this. I don't even know where it's coming from because nobody in that room that's actually there thinks it. I remember the last mandatory minicamp practice. I turned around to everybody and I'm like, does anybody get these emails about there's a QB? I said, none of you in this room are reporting it. And they're all like, and everyone's like, no. I mean, listen, we both like Aiden. We both think he may be a starting quarterback in this league. But he ain't now. Geno looks different. And all due respect to Derek, I'm not trashing Derek. I like Derek. I consider Derek a friend. I never saw Derek look like this. I mean, he's throwing guys open. He's accurate. In the 6 seasons I've covered this team, now we've not played one game, and that's what matters. But I've never seen a quarterback look like he's looked. He's looked different. So wherever that stupidity coming from, it's either just for clicks or AI trying to get clicks because nobody in that building. And if you were to having dinner with Aiden privately, I think he'd even tell you there ain't a competition. He's going to get to compete, but it ain't a competition. Your thoughts?
Yes, listen, I think you hit it right on the. Listen, in terms of Aiden, we all like Aiden. And listen, I've taken some flack for how much I root for Aiden, how much I like for Aiden, how much I have seen him overcome all of the things that he has had to overcome over the last 2 seasons. But just like you said, I think if you took Aiden to the side, or maybe even if you didn't take him to the side, he would say Geno's the guy, right? So Geno has proven himself on the field over the last decade, whether he was a starter or the backup. He's proven himself, and right now, I mean, he looks good, and he's definitely the best quarterback the Raiders have had in a while. I don't think that there's a controversy, but I do think the Raiders should be confident that, hey, let's say something does happen with Geno. that a healthy Aiden O'Connell would at least, with an improved roster, right? An improved Aiden O'Connell should help things go a little bit smoother if Geno was to get hurt.
I could not agree with you more. All right. So I gotta let you take a victory lap. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry for the laugh. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry.
You know where I'm going here. So you took a lot of grief. Not going to say who, because the person is a friend, and we have no desire to make them look bad. But you took a lot of grief on your stance on Shedeur Sanders. A lot of grief. Do you feel vindicated now?
Well, like you said, first and foremost, you gotta go out and prove it, right? Because, for all we know, Shedeur could go ball out. But I do want to specify that, Shedeur was he was a byproduct of the overall conversation, right? I was really just trying to, say that I feel like Aiden had done a solid job considering all that he had gone through. And for everyone at home, the conversation in the room became, I felt like you could not, if you guys remember halfway through the season last year when Aiden was playing, everybody was clamoring for the Raiders to take a quarterback, whether it's Shedeur, whoever it may be, Raiders take a quarterback. I wrote an article that basically said, hey, Aiden is better, he's more pro ready than any of the college quarterbacks that were playing at the time. And with me, when I think pro ready, I don't mean come to the pros and sit on the bench for a year. To me, that's not pro ready. You're not ready, or else you would be starting, right? I felt like Aiden, with the injuries that he had to deal with around him, with the lack of a good roster, questionable coaching staff, you mean to tell me that a guy that's playing college football in the middle of his season, you can drop him right into the same situation that the Raiders were in last year and play better than Aiden? To me, I just didn't understand it. I still don't understand it, right? I think if those guys that the Raiders were looking at quarterback, or people wanted the Raiders to take a quarterback, if they were that good, that they were that pro ready, they would have been in the league last offseason. They wouldn't have had to go back for another year. Now, that's just me. We can go down that rabbit hole if you want to. But no victory lap. I mean, we're right about some things, we're wrong about some things, and at the end of the day, things still have to be proven, right? But I do root for Aiden. I think I identify with not just the underdog, but you got to understand with Aiden is twofold. He's the underdog naturally. He's always been an underdog, whether it's college, where he's always been an underdog. That's what he is. However, not only was he the underdog when he was a starter, he had to deal with so many other things that I'm not sure a lot of other quarterbacks would have been able to succeed through. So, no victory lap, but definitely excited to see where the Raiders go. Definitely happy for Aiden that he's back. He looks good. He looks better, and are just happy for the season. It's here, man. Like you said at the start, it is here. I hope everybody's excited because I am.
I'm just going to say this. Take your right hand, put it on your left shoulder, and tap your back. Just come on. Tap yourself on the back.
Yes, sir.
But I do want to say this. I'm proud of the coverage we gave people because we were hearing internally, it's not going to be Shedeur. It's not going to be Shedeur. We didn't hype Shedeur because I kept saying there's a good chance he doesn't even make it in the first round. Everybody I talked to, he's not a first-round quarterback. And we said it. Oh, man. And a lot of other media, including Raider media, hyping Shedeur, which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. They believed it. I'm not calling them disingenuous. But we were getting told, no. And again, we tell people all the time, this is where you come if you don't want to get hyped. You just want to know what's going on. Big announcement for everybody. As you know, Zeke joins me once a week on the podcast. I love having him because we're there at practice working together. But one day coming up during the regular season, he's going to start hosting by himself every Friday. Now, not during training camp, but once the season gets started, every Friday is going to be Zeke Day. Either we're thinking about Friday or game day morning. I like game day morning even a little bit better for you, Zeke. What do you think about game day morning?
Hondo, I like either or listen, I like both, right? Because Friday is Friday, right? It's a relaxed day, but game day, all I'll ask is that, hey, the excitement you see right now is going to be doubled on game day because it's game day. So yes, if we do game day, get ready for a good time. Whatever you want, Hondo, whatever works best, let's go, man. I'm ready.
But I'm excited about you hosting one day a week on your own. You're going to do a tremendous job. We love Zeke. He is such a good beat writer with me, and, man, he just does a great job. I know the people love him, the players love him, and I love him genuinely, and appreciate you, Zeke, for all you do, man. You're one of the best.
Thank you again, Hondo. Thank you for the opportunity as always, and happy 2025 season. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Now, by the way, everybody, Follow everything Zeke and I and everybody else on our staff do. We're doing like 18 to 20 stories a day, and they're free. Starting, later today, we're going to have video, tons of video throughout camp, stories throughout camp. You're not going to want to miss it. Follow me on social media when you go to Threads or IG at Hondo SR, or on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter. Read everything Zeke and I and our team write at si.com/NFL/Raiders. And Zeke, tell them where to find you, Mr. Easy Like a Sunday Morning.
Yes, sir. On X/Twitter, you can find me at EZT as in Tom, REZ_SI.
There you go. Check them out. We'll see you later, everybody.
See you guys.